I hope the week was a very successful one and fruitful one. And I hope we all had a very restful night. Okay, so today we have our fourth class, right? And start. Okay, so as you see on the slide, admission is ongoing in Transformation College of Business and Technology, and for our courses talking about networking and system security, business informatics, computer software engineering, and environmental and safety management. Okay, these are the 4 carefully selected courses that we have, and if you have your siblings, children, if you have you yourself, you've seen the kind of value and quality education that we spend at Transformation College, and we are not stopping here. The kind of quality education that we hope to impact into our students. So if you have rewards your children, your friends, siblings who are yet to get admission into university, or who are even undergraduates and can run concurrently a virtual diploma course, you can safely do that at Transformation College. So you click on the link. Mercy, you can share this registration link in the chat room as well. And just click on it and then follow the registration process. Okay, so today is the 4th class, and we'll be looking at, today is 28th of October, so we'll be looking at first session, etiquette and decorum, and then we will take the ISO 20,000, and we will look at the 4th topic in business analysis, which is discussing investigation techniques. All right, so get your writing materials ready, and as we commence shortly. Okay, so without waste of further time, it is a pleasure to introduce the first trainer today, by name Feishayo Dejide. She is based in Lagos, and she is a masterful elocution and effective communication coach. I have listened to some of her trainings, and it's always a pleasure to have her tutor you. Okay, and you would experience that today. She, with a profound love for the English language, she expertly provides her students in the art of speech. Guides her students in the arts of speech and the subtleties of meaningful conversation. As an etiquette and decorum coach, she shapes not just the word one utters, but also the manner in which one interacts and presents oneself. An avid reader, a craft enthusiast, and a writer, she brings a touch of humor and inspiration to her teachings. I can attest to this one, and you're going to attest to that after the end of today's training session with her. And her deep passion for discussing life adds a unique dimension to her sessions, highlighting her vast knowledge and genuine interest in fostering meaningful human connections. So ladies and gentlemen, you can put on the chat room for a round of applause as we welcome the first speaker or trainer for today, Feishayo Odejide. Madam Feishayo, you can take it from here.
Good morning, everyone. You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to take you through today's or this morning's session. We're going to be exploring a little bit comprehensively, the world of etiquette. So we'll be talking about it from its historical roots to the modern day applications. We'll uncover, how etiquette generally shapes our world. So thank you very much, Edith, for this. Thank you for having me here. I can't wait to delve into this. We have an hour, and I trust that it's going to be impactful. So without further ado, I will share my screen and we will take it from there. Thank you very much, Edith. Just a minute, I'll share my screen shortly. Okay, let's take it from here. Right, share, right, good. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, clearly.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right. Fantastic. So we'll start with introducing etiquettes. And if, I mean, are people allowed to offer feedback on the call, or I'm just going to talk straight? They
Yes,
can
you
send
talk
me
straight.
chats, right?
Questions, you can talk straight, and questions will be put up in the chat room, and later on
Beautiful.
we can attend to questions and
Right, fantastic. Okay, so welcome everyone once again. So that we don't waste time, I'll just begin, and then whatever questions you have along the way, please do drop in the chat room. Thank you very much. So yes, etiquette. What is etiquette? And what is decorum? Etiquette refers to the customary code of polite behavior in society or amongst members of a particular profession or group. So it's essentially the guidelines that dictate how individuals should behave, in situations, and how they should interact with one another, whether in the professional world or in the digital world. And of course, you know that we have to take the digital world into keen consideration because a lot of our interaction goes on online these days. So, that's what etiquette is. It's generally how we behave, how we, interact with one another, and the code of conduct, so to speak, that governs that. And then the other term, decorum, refers to how to the behavior, the propriety that you apply in different, circumstances. Everything has to be in good taste. You don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. You don't want them to feel inappropriate. You have to maintain a sense of dignity and respect in a manner of in a couple of situations and in a manner of saying, so to speak. So when one acts with decorum, they're acting in a manner that is socially acceptable, and it is expected for that particular context, so to speak. So in a sense, both terms emphasize the importance of behaving appropriately in different settings, while etiquette is more about a set of rules and guidelines. This is what to do, this is not what to do. Decorum links towards the sense of dignity and the properness of behavior. You know how when we say, "Oh, we better comport," it's not the it's not the right use of the word, but that's what people say. They say comport, as a good guy, as a correct guy, I just comport. So that's what decorum really, talks about. Decorum talks about comportment, right? And there's been so to speak an evolution of decorum. Excuse me. There's been an evolution of decorum and of etiquette. I'm sorry to say, and okay, yeah. So the concept of etiquette has evolved considerably over the centuries, and I can imagine that we've seen a couple of movies where we've seen how people behave, how what's the word that people like to use, hoity-toity. That people have behaved hoity-toity in certain settings and things like that. So it's all part of decorum. I mean, there's a number of things that we do in today, this day and age, that would have been completely unacceptable. I do remember that there was a time where, as it concerns dressing, women's ankles were not even allowed to, you weren't allowed to see women's ankles because of, that's the way things were then. So it's all part of it. There's been an evolution. So there's been evolution from the times of the Egyptians, so the ancient Egyptians they had a code of manners, especially in the royal courts. The Chinese, they had their Confucianism, stressed the importance of rights and proper behavior. And then the Greeks and the Romans, these ones had their social norms, for various settings, from their amphitheater to the dining table, all kinds of things. And then we go on to the Middle Ages. In the European medieval courts, the idea of courtly love emerged, and emphasizing chivalry and respect towards women. Rules regarding social class distinctions were very strictly adhered to, so to speak. So the term etiquette may sound old-fashioned, and in a way it may be, but its origins trace back, to the lavish halls of the French royal courts, and while times have changed, the essence of etiquette hasn't. It's about basically fostering respect, understanding our interactions. Those things remain ever relevant. So today's session, we're going to try to bridge the historical with the contemporary, and we showcase the timeless nature of etiquette. Right. Okay, my screen is okay. Beautiful. All right. So, as Europeans, societies became more urbanized, there was a greater need for the rules of personal behavior. So there's a book, that was written a long time ago, and it's called the book of the courtier. So because people realize that, okay, there's a need for proper behavior and all that, they came up with that book. So there was also the age of enlightenment. With the rise of the bourgeoisie, there was a desire to adopt the manners of aristocracy. So everybody wanted to behave like an aristocrat, and they got a lot of guidelines and a lot of rules written down to be able to do those things and behave properly, as it were. So we went from the age of enlightenment all the way to the Victorian era, and this was the golden age of etiquette, especially in Britain. The Victorians had a code of conduct for virtually everything, and then they had manuals like Mrs. Beaton's book of household management, and that's where you see how butlers behave and how maids behave and how footmen behave, things like that. So after that, we go on to the post-World War II, with the rise of the middle class in the West. And at this point, there was a shift towards more relaxed social norms, through the certain formalities that persisted. After that, we went on to the 21st century and today, where we have the digital age, and that has brought new questions of etiquette, from email communication to social media behavior, So, and with the globalization of culture, there's a mix of traditional and modern etiquette practices across different societies. So, at the end of the day, we will delve, much deeper into the essentials, why etiquette matters in our fast-paced digital world, as it were. Thinking of etiquette, we think of etiquette as the oil that keeps the machinery of society running, smoothly. Because at the end of the day, we all have to act right, we have to behave right, we have to do things that are proper, so that we do not make the people around us uncomfortable. And it seems to me that these days, people do not really care anymore about how they make other people and people around them feel. And that shouldn't be the case. Everybody has to behave properly. Everybody has to speak right, sit right, do things right. Don't, I don't know what it is. It's the woke syndrome, so to speak, has allowed a lot of, social etiquette, so to speak, go to waste, so to speak, And I don't think it's the right thing. I don't think it's the proper thing. I think everybody has to have a code by which, we live and we act and, behave, so to speak. So yes, we'll continue with what the importance of etiquette in modern society. And what are the importances here? Etiquette will help you facilitate communication, because with proper etiquette, you ensure that you're clear, you're respectful in your communication, and then that way there's less misunderstandings, so you don't misunderstand one another. You're clear, you're proper, because also you have body language as part of the things that will show in the way you communicate with people. And so if you're saying one thing and your body language is saying something else, I mean, you're sending mixed signals. So at the end of the day, you want to know how to speak properly and how to behave properly and how to also communicate with your body, as it were. So it helps you build positive relationships. It helps to enhance your professionalism, and it helps promote respect, because at the end of the day, you respect me, I respect you, and then everybody is happy. Okay? And then of course, it helps to reflect your character, what kind of character you already have. It helps to reduce conflict. It helps to facilitate social integration. I see on social media quite a lot, especially on Twitter. And it's I mean, I dare say it's a jungle out there, and on the streets of Twitter, as people like to say. Nobody cares about anybody. Nobody cares about how anybody feels about anything. Everybody's just going haywire. Everybody's saying all kinds of things, and people who can write well, people who can't write well, everybody wants to air their opinion, which is not bad. Airing your opinion is not bad, but it's also important to do it in a respectful manner, in with some decorum. It's quite disheartening sometimes, the things I see and how insensitive people can be on social media and the likes. So yeah, sorry. Okay. I need to get this off of my screen. Excuse me, please. I'm sorry, but I can't seem to see the top of my text, and it's a bit distracting for me. But anyways, we'll move on. Let's not waste time with that. So at the same time, as I was saying, etiquette and decorum, as it were, enhances your social brand. In an age where personal branding is crucial for many professions, good etiquette can set an individual apart and leave lasting positive impressions. Absolutely, because people remember how you make them feel more than what it is that you said to them. So at the end of the day, if you treat someone with respect, especially as a business or as a representative of a business, I mean, you'll be doing your brand a favor, and you'll be making someone feel good at the same time, and it doesn't take a lot. You say thank you, you say please, you just use the proper social cues, as it were, so yeah, that's important. And then personal etiquette will refer to things like personal presentation, which talks about your grooming and personal hygiene, your dress code, dressing appropriately for different occasions. I've seen people wear dinner dresses to church, and I wonder, and they're not having dinner at church. So I wonder why that is. And sometimes it's just because people don't know what is appropriate for what occasion. So there's also communication skills, verbal, that is your tone, your clarity, your active listening, your non-verbal skills, which is body language, facial expressions, and eye contact. And then we'll move on to digital etiquette, where your email communication will depict your tone, your clarity, and your response time. And then your social media etiquette talks about sharing, commenting, and privacy considerations. Okay, so with regards to personal presentation, we're talking about the way you look, your grooming, your personal hygiene, your dress code, personal presentation. I mean, everybody, wherever it is that you go, you want to look good, you want to look appropriate for a particular what's it called, a particular occasion, as it were. Our appearance and how we present ourselves sends the initial message before we even speak, you know. So whether you're attending business conference or a dinner party or a casual outing, there are unwritten codes that guide our attire choices, you know. So I mean, you need to make sure that you're dressed in the right way, you know, ensuring that your attire aligns with the occasion and communicates the right message, you know. So that's very important. And then grooming is a very important one. I mean, I've seen people and I've heard people and I've smelled people, and we don't want to. I mean, people who go around without underarm spray, without roll-on, you know, and they emit a particular body smell, for want of a better word. And it's disrespectful sometimes when you're not aware of how you smell and how it affects other people. And that is really important, because at the same time, you want to go somewhere and you want to feel, you know, comfortable around without having to move your nose away from, you know, one person or another. And I've seen that happen a million times. And it's embarrassing both for the person who I would probably refer to as the offender and the offendee, as it were. You know, so it's important to always make sure that, you know, you smell right. Your perfume should not be overwhelming, but at the same time, you shouldn't, of course, not go without perfume, without underarm spray, without roll-on, without body splash, whatever it is that will help you smell right. You know, you don't have to wear designer perfume, but just wear proper perfume. You should look good. Your nails should be, you know, properly trimmed. Your hair should look good. Even if you're going to carry whatever hairstyle it is, it should be properly done. I've seen people, just because they're carrying dreadlocks, they look unkempt, but dreadlocks can look beautiful and they can be neat. I've had dreadlocks in the past, and I've never had anybody complain about them before. And I do say that, I mean, I pride myself in having done all kinds of hairstyles, and I promise you, I try my best to make sure that, you know, I'm looking good, you know. So we need to make sure that our hair, our nails, our odor, you know, body smell, mouth smell, whatever it is, it's in place and it's properly done. So, you know, we need to wash our hair regularly, make sure that we clean our skin regularly, moisturize it properly so that you don't go around with white feet, you know, and protect your skin as well. Brush, floss, brush, floss, do them regular dental checkups, you know, make sure your teeth are healthy, and you keep your breath fresh. I know it's difficult sometimes because all kinds of things that we could have eaten that would affect the way our mouths will smell, but, you know, have mint, have gum, have something that, you know, you make sure that you're keeping everybody else, putting everybody else in consideration. Keep your nails clean. Make sure you use, you know, all the right things. And there's a dime a dozen for all these things now. So, I mean, I don't think it should be a problem. And then dress appropriately for different occasions, you know. So it's important that people dress a particular way if they want to send particular, you know, messages about about themselves, as it were, as it concerns a particular occasion. So, you know, it reflects your personal style and your sense of professionalism. So you need to be mindful of how you dress in the workplace. You need to be mindful of how you dress to a party. You need to be mindful of how you dress to church. You need to be mindful of how you dress to the mosque, to wherever it is that you're going to. You need to be mindful that you're dressed for that occasion, and that you're not, you know, you're not going to be standing out like a sore thumb, so to speak. So yes, it's important to dress to fit the occasion. Think about the important things. I mean, the right things to wear for casual events, the right things to wear for formal events, the right things to wear for sporting or outdoor events, and then, of course, the right things to wear for cultural and religious events. All right. And then let's talk about our communication skills. Our communication skills are verbal tone, clarity, and active listening. It's very, very important, you know. And whenever you're saying something and you're trying to get a message across to people, you have to make sure that, you know, your tone is conveying what you're saying, and it's not the other way around. You know that thing they say about the Yoruba language, where can mean a number of things. So there's there's you know, all manner, you know. So it's the same thing. Whatever it is you're saying needs to be reflected in the tone. You know, there's got to be clarity. There's got to be you need to be certain that the person that you're talking to understands precisely what it is that you're saying, you know. And then of course, at the same time, we're also talking about your body language, your facial expressions, you know, your what's it called, your unintentional expression of what it is that you're saying sometimes, because sometimes you're saying things and then you're not deliberately trying to pass that message across, and then somebody gets confused along the line. So we need to be very mindful of that. And then we need to listen actively. You know, we need to concentrate. When someone is speaking, you need to maintain sometimes eye contact so that they know that you understand what it is that they're saying. You're listening to them. You know, it's not every time that someone talks to you that you're required to respond, but when it is, you know, important that you respond, then you make sure that you respond adequately as it concerns what it is that that person is saying to you. You understand? And then you make sure that you're asking, you know, the right questions. You're not interrupting the person, you know, like, you know, trying to make the conversation about you. You know, at the end of the day, it's important to always remember that there's a way to listen and listen actively. And then, you know, the body, like I said before, the body language, this encompasses various elements, including the way you stand, you know, your posture, you know, the distance between, you know, you and the person that is in front of you. That's the proxemics. And then, you know, you need to know what your posture as it is, what it indicates. If you have a relaxed open posture, this can indicate that you're receptive, you know, while if your arms are crossed, then it means that you're being defensive. And it doesn't always follow, but it's important that you know this so that you know what it is that you're conveying, if you understand what I'm saying. Because there are times when my arms are crossed, and it's not because I'm defensive, it's just that it's the comfortable way that I want to be, you know, be at that time. However, if I know that someone might view that as defensiveness, I'll then have to readjust myself just so that, you know, that the person doesn't feel uncomfortable, you know, speaking with me as it were. You know, so gestures can emphasize or illustrate verbal communication, but it is crucial to be aware of the cultural differences, as gestures might have a different meaning across, you know, different cultures, as it were. Okay. Then your facial expressions, you know, one of the most telling aspects of nonverbal communication is, you know, your facial expressions, you know, your emotions like happiness, sadness, anger, surprise can be easily conveyed with, you know, with facial expressions. But being aware of your facial expressions can help in ensuring that your nonverbal cues align with your verbal messages. You know, you have to maintain eye contact. You know, establishing and maintaining the proper eye contact can either convey interest, confidence, or sincerity. At the same time, if you're not, if you're avoiding looking at someone in the eye, sometimes it could even translate to being dishonest or evasive, as it were. So in the realm of communication, both verbal and non-verbal elements play, you know, crucial roles. And then let's talk about digital etiquette. In a digital age, understanding how to conduct oneself online it's just as important as in person, like I said before. So, you know, it's important that your emails, they convey the right the right tone, and there's clarity in what it is that you're saying to people. You know, your social media etiquette, your sharing, your commenting, you know, all those things, they're very important, because at the end of the day, if you're okay, yeah, when was it? Was yesterday, yesterday evening, I was looking on Instagram, and then I saw something that Rita Dominic had posted. She posted I think it was a lunch or something that she was going to, and she was dressed in this really nice kaftan, you know, and all of that. And before we knew it, we had all our womb watchers saying congratulations. Oh, you everybody should wait to have to meet the man of their dreams. I know it's amazing, but the lady has not even announced that she's pregnant. We don't even know that if she we don't even know if she's actually pregnant. But you know, you've gone around to start congratulating her, and I thought that was quite inappropriate, because if someone does not tell you they're pregnant, then you have no business telling them congratulations. You don't know if they just have a big tummy, or if whatever it is that's going on with them. And then at the end of the day, you start to make them feel uncomfortable. So let people announce certain things to you before you start congratulating them. And that's just, you know, one of the thousand different examples. So, you know, you have to know how to behave on social media and outside of social media, as it were. So yeah, we've talked about clarity, we've talked about okay, so yes, it's important. Response time, and I believe that a lot of us are very guilty of this. Someone sends you an email, and I mean, it's ideal that you respond as quickly as possible, you know, within the next 24 to 48 hours. And because if you do not do that, then it's assumed that you probably did not see that message, and whatever it is that is meant to happen may end up not happening at the end of the day. So it's important to at least send, you know, an acknowledgement. It has to be courteous, you know, and saying that, oh, thank you very much for your email. This has been acknowledged. I'll get back to you at a later time, so to speak. Whatever it is, you know. So it's important that those things happen. Be respectful when you share, you know, and be certain that whatever it is you're sharing is accurate information, and they are not just perpetuating a false narrative, as it were, you know. So, and then of course, there's the issue of oversharing, and then you need to also remember to give credit to the original creators of whatever it is that you're sharing, okay? And then think about people's privacy and all of that. Digital etiquette is about transferring the respect and consideration we show in real life interactions to the online world. It is this connected age. Digital interactions have the lasting impact on personal and professional relationships. So it's crucial to navigate them with care and thoughtfulness. All right, and then we'll go on to the social etiquettes, you know, dining etiquette, event etiquette, public spaces etiquette. All these things are extremely important, and it seems to be somewhat a lost art. You know, nobody really cares about how to the right way to eat and behave at the table anymore. So yeah, let's just dive straight into that. So under dining etiquette, we'll be talking about table settings and usage, table manners, chewing, conversation, and handling tricky food. Place settings in traditional Western table settings often involve multiple utensils, from outside in, soup spoon or fish knife, main meal / fork knife, salad fork / knife. So we have all of that. And I've seen a lot of, or I've heard a lot of people say, well, it doesn't really matter in our country here, because you know, we do a lot of eating with our hands and all of that. And there's nothing wrong with eating with your hands. I mean, especially because a lot of our foods require that we do eat with our hands, especially for enjoyment's sake. However, you're not always going to be eating with your hand. You're not always going to be eating swallows and things like that. So it's important that you at least know the right thing to do per time. Doesn't mean you always have to use it, but it's important that you know it so that when you're in a situation where you have to use it, then you're not lost, So we have things that are called dessert spoons and forks that are placed horizontally above the plate or brought out with dessert. And then we have the bread plate that is always to the left, while drinks are always to the right. We have the glassware. Different glasses might be present for water, white wine, red wine, and possibly champagne. Remember to use each glass for its intended purpose. And then we have napkin etiquette. Once seated, remove the napkin from your tables and from your place setting, fold it in half and place it on your lap with the fold facing towards you. If you need to leave temporarily, place the napkin on your chair at the end of the meal, place it loosely to the left of your plate. This is how it is done. You understand? This is how you should eat. Dining isn't just a physical act, It's not the physical act of eating alone. It's a social experience. So whether it is a formal banquet, whether it is a casual brunch, whether, whatever it is, there's a dance of unspoken rules and practices. It's important to know what these rules and practices are. You have to understand the table settings. You have to master the art of even conversation over a meal, chewing with your mouth closed is important. Do not talk with your mouth open. You understand? Sorry, do not chew with your mouth open, and then avoid chewing and talking at the same time. It's messy, and I dare say disgusting sometimes. Okay, so if you need to take a moment to swallow before speaking, I think it's better. It's better than speaking with your mouth open. And then when you do have to speak, you have to engage in interesting, however neutral topics, especially if you're dining with individuals that you don't know, very well. So avoid controversial subjects, I mean, it would be nice if you don't talk about politics, especially Nigerian politics at that time, and then listening is also as important as speaking. Show interest in what other people are saying. Do not dominate, do not feel like you have to be the alpha at the dinner table, as it were. And then handling tricky food, There are so many kinds of tricky foods, especially when you find that, you're not eating local dishes, as it were. So, it's important to, excuse me, it's important to realize that, there's an array of different kinds of food that across the globe, you have things like shellfish, you have spaghetti, you have artichokes, you have escargots, you have different kinds of things that you get the opportunity to eat at different times. You have sushi, if you're in a Japanese session and they bring you some sushi and sashimi, you have to know how to use your chopsticks to eat those kinds of things. However, if you're eating shellfish, crab legs and things like that, you have to use a seafood cracker to eat, things like that. I mean, I've seen places where they allow you just go wild when you're having to eat seafood because of the complexity of eating those kinds of things. And it's allowed when it's in an informal setting, but when you're having dinner, when you've gone to dinner with someone or dressed and ready to enjoy yourself and have a good time in the evening, you don't want to make a mess while eating your shellfish, And then when you're eating spaghetti, you know that you have to twirl a small amount against the side of your plate or with the aid of a spoon if it's been provided. With the artichokes, you pluck the leaves one at a time, dip it in if you want to, and then pull through your teeth to remove the soft and the pulpy portion of it. And then if you encounter bones or seeds in your mouth, discreetly use your thumb and your forefinger to remove it and place it on the side of your plate, just very daintily and all of that. So it's important to always say please and thank you when asking for something and when it has been offered. Wait until everyone is served before you start to eat. Avoid placing your elbows on the table while eating. It is rude. And if you're unsure about a particular etiquette point, a good rule of thumb is to observe and follow your host or others at the table. Dining etiquette, while it seems intricate, is also about showing respect and consideration for your fellow diners. It enhances the dining experience, turning it into a more enjoyable shared event. And then let's talk about event etiquette. You know, there's, I mean, special events, be it weddings, corporate functions, birthdays, they all come with their own set of etiquette. So being punctual, understanding the significance of RSVPs, and mastering the art of gift giving are very important things to consider. Okay, because at the end of the day, you don't want to come around looking or come off looking like a savage who doesn't understand what the social cues are with regards to these things. So, there's something called RSVP, and it's not rice and food very plenty, like we say. It's about responding to an invitation, so to speak. So in RSVP stands for Respondez s'il vous plaît. It's a French phrase, and I believe we all know that, and it simply just means please respond. So by RSVPing, you allow the organizer to make this essential arrangements such as the seating, the food, and the accommodations. And whilst it may not apply in most Nigerian and, as it were, African parties and events, it will apply in some of them. And then remember, your only events are not going to be in Nigeria and Africa. We expect that, you will find yourselves in events outside of the world, in France, in Spain, in Monte Carlo, in different parts of the world. You want to represent yourself adequately and appropriately, as it were. So you should always respond to your RSVP by the specified date on the invitation. If no date is provided, then you should respond as promptly as possible. Changing the circumstances, if your plans change after you've RSVP, it is courteous to notify the host as soon as possible. You have to respect time. No African time or Nigerian time, as it were. It's important that you arrive on time because it shows respect for the host, that they've put. You appreciate the effort that they've put into organizing the event. Fashionably late, while some events or cultures may consider it acceptable to arrive a tad after the specified time, it's generally best practice to be punctual. And then if you find yourself that it's you have some unexpected delays, something that you weren't expected arises, you then need to at least call your host or whoever is expecting you that, oh, I'm so sorry, I've been held up unavoidably, and I will be with you as soon as possible, or whatever it is that you need to say, just to make sure that they're aware that you're not just taking them for granted, as it were. And then the issue of gift giving and receiving. You need to consider the occasion. Not all events require a gift, but occasions like birthdays, housewarmings, and certain cultural celebrations, it's often expected. Thought over price. A well thought out gift is more important than an expensive gift, because you can decide to give somebody an expensive trade that they don't need, as opposed to giving them something that you think that they actually will need, or something that just makes them know that you were thinking about them and that you're not just thinking about giving a gift, as it were. And then you have to be culturally aware. When attending events rooted in specific cultures and traditions, it's beneficial to be aware of any gift-giving norms or taboos. There's certain things that you can give in certain settings, and there's certain things that you shouldn't give, because then they send a wrong message, as it were. And then your presentation counts quite a lot. So it's important to always think about what it is that you're doing when you're doing it. A neatly wrapped gift or one with a personal touch, like a handwritten note, can enhance the gift giving experience. And then in receiving, you, the receiver, you need to show appreciation, regardless of the gift's nature. Whatever it is you're giving, you've been given, you need to be appreciative of it, because think about it, they didn't have to give you a gift, but they chose to do so. So, excuse me. On the topic of to open or not to open, cultural norms may dictate whether a gift should be opened immediately or set aside to open later. If in doubt, you might ask the giver for their preference or follow the host's lead. Okay, and then reciprocation. While you don't need to reciprocate immediately, it's thoughtful. It's a thoughtful gesture to remember to act and perhaps return the favor on a future occasion. So if somebody has given you a gift for your birthday, it is only good practice to also give them a gift on their birthday. Does not then mean that because they didn't give you a gift, you shouldn't also then give them a gift at the same time, because you just do not know what the situation was when it was your birthday and they were unable to give you a gift. So, I mean, that's just something to put into consideration. And then you should be thankful, So in your in the expression of your thanks, especially for significant gifts or gestures, it's important and useful to send a thank you note or a message that can be touching as a way to show your appreciation. Okay. And then, okay, so generally, event etiquette around RSVPing, gift exchanges help to ensure smooth interactions and shows respect for the host and other attendees. As with many social practices, being mindful, considerate, and genuine are key components to navigating these situations gracefully. Okay, so our behavior in shared spaces, I mean, it plays a pivotal role in shaping our societal image. So from understanding the unspoken seat rules on public transports, things like getting up for an elderly person and things like that, and then to maintaining decorum in the theater, and just generally knowing how to behave properly in different places. We'll just touch on those things right away. So your behavior in public transport, I mean, yes, it can be said that the public transport system in Nigeria does not even really allow for proper decorum, but just for being just for knowing sake, as it were, and then when you find yourselves in situations where it is important to do so, it's important to always think about the priority seating. Always be willing to give up your seat for the elderly, for the pregnant women, and for the disabled passengers, as it were. You see someone with a crutch and then you're sitting comfortably. I don't think it is proper for you to remain seated while somebody is extremely uncomfortable. I mean, you should make allowances for things like that. So, and then also your noise levels. I've seen people play well, I've seen it happen. Play loud music inside public transportation. You're on a train, you're in a bus, and somebody is listening to music, loud music on their phone, and another person is listening to loud music somewhere else. All people are talking over the top of their voices, and it can be a mess, and it can be extremely uncomfortable. And like I said before, I know that being proper and keeping the right amount of decorum on public transportation in Nigeria may be a far reach, but at the same time, I think it can be done, because if you do it in Nigeria, you will do it anywhere else. And it's really just about you being proper and doing the things that you're meant to be doing. So you need to make sure that you're aware of the space. Don't take up more space than necessary. I've seen people that are not very big decide to spread their legs in buses just because they feel like they've paid the same amount of money with the chunkier individual. And yeah, I mean, come on, it's not necessary to do that. I mean, even on planes, you see people spilling over other people's seats just because they feel cheated. I mean, it's not proper, it's not right. Try to just be as polite as possible and be mindful of personal space. Eating and drinking, avoid consuming smelly or messy foods. If you must eat, be discreet and always clean up after yourself. During boarding and alighting, allow passengers to the exit. Allow passengers to exit before boarding, and queue properly and be orderly, and do not push people, and then just be generally cautious in your behavior. Respect personal boundaries and avoid making prolonged eye contact, because I promise you, if you look at somebody too long in a bus or in a train, you'll be labeled as something that is quite unsavory. Okay, and then in the cinemas, behavior in theater, you need to arrive on time. It's important. Keep your phone on silent. I mean, they say this all the time. And try to stay as quiet as possible. Limit your movement. If you even want to make any kind of applause or anything, I mean, probably wait till the end of the show before you do that, okay? Except if it is something that everyone else was doing. And then respect the venue. Clean up after yourself. Keeping the theater in good condition is good for future attendees. In queues, wait your turn. Jumping the queue is considered rude and unfair. I mean, come on, we've been told this time and time again. I mean, I remember from when I was younger, there was something called war against indiscipline. Why? Why everybody had to keep to a queue and all that. And the government kept advertising it and talking about it and all that. After a while, there was kick against indiscipline and all that. So, I mean, we've been told these things over and over and over again. And I don't think we need to be told, more than we've been told. And I mean, even in our heads, we already know that there are things that are right and there are things that are wrong, and it's just important to keep to those things, as it were. Maintain personal space. Do not squash people. Do not move too close to people when you're on a queue and all of that. And then just do things quickly and respectfully and leave. Try to remain patient and calm, even if the queue isn't moving as quickly as you hope, because your what's it called, your frustration and your irritability will not make it move any faster. I promise you that. And then respect the queue monitors. If there's somebody who has come to say, okay, try to make sure that the queue is properly adhered to, as it were, respect them. They're just trying to help and all of that. Okay, I think we've talked. Oh, sorry. So I think I repeated this quite a bit. Okay. All right, so yes, office decorum, dress. I think I repeated my slides. I apologize for that. Okay, we have meeting etiquette. So punctuality and preparation, and then participating, listening, and taking turns speaking. Okay, so I mean, make sure that you're punctual for your meetings. Make sure that you're prepared for your meetings. Do not waste everybody else's time by not, having made all the necessary preparations for that meeting. I mean, I think it's completely unfair to everybody else if you come for a meeting and you're not prepared. Make sure that you're familiar with the agenda. Make sure your documents are ready. whatever technological things that need to be sorted out, make sure they're sorted out before that time, and make sure that you have background knowledge about everything, because meetings are where ideas take flight. So at the end of the day, you need to make sure that all the things that need to be done are done, so that the meeting at the end of the day is successful. Okay, so make sure you're participating, make sure you're listening, make sure you're taking your time, your turn to speak. Don't just jump into conversations when you're in the meeting. All right. Then in concluding the meeting, it's important to summarize whatever excuse me, to summarize whatever it is that have been the highlights of that meeting, and then make sure that you make your appreciations concise and short, and then of course also very meaningful. And then there's something we refer to as networking etiquette, introducing yourself and introducing others. Make sure that when you're introducing yourself, you start with a confident and firm handshake, but nothing overpowering. Don't try to squash somebody's hand. Maintain brief but meaningful eye contact. It shows that you're attentive and you're sincere. Be concise, offer your name. Hello, I'm Faishayo, a writer based in Lagos and London, and then just move on to the next thing. Don't talk too much about yourself. And then open with the context, like say things like, oh, I'm particularly interested in the discussion on standards and best practice. Things like that, and then you just move on. And then whilst introducing other people, you're saying, okay, hey, Alex, meet Orlando. You both have a deep interest in travel, because, those two people that you decided to introduce people who have something in common, and that they have something that you'll be able to talk about, and then always use full names. And if applicable, use people's titles and designations, unless they tell you however it is they want to be addressed. At least start with that. You use a mister, you use a chief, you use a doctor, you use, professor, you use whatever it is that you want to use to address them. And then when you're engaging in small talk and you want to find common ground, start broad, listen actively, ask open-ended questions, share personal anecdotes, things like that, just to keep the conversation going and interesting. Avoid controversial topics, like we've said before, even in the dining etiquette. Be genuine, authenticity is crucial. It's better to listen, to genuinely listen and engage than to feign interest, all right? So, and if you know that, that particular conversation is not going to you're not enjoying it or anything like that, it's not flowing for you, then you make an excuse and then you move on to the next one, where you'll be able to be more genuine. Respect boundaries, it's important. Someone seems uninterested and gives short answers, then please don't delve further, don't push in. All right. And then exchange contact information. It's important. If the conversation goes well and there's potential for mutual benefit, then it's important and useful to exchange to exchange your contact information, as it were. And then, of course, we also have something known as the international etiquette. It's important to understand cultural differences, and travel etiquette, as it were. So you need to appreciate people's customs and traditions. You need to respect their local, you need to respect people's local traditions and customs, dress appropriately in people's countries, don't make them feel uncomfortable. Understand their cultural differences, appreciate diverse customs, values, and beliefs. You don't have to believe in them. You don't even have to, but appreciate it and understand that not everybody can have your own opinion and your own culture and things like that, and just respect people's culture and all that. Then avoid stereotypes and making assumptions. It's completely unfair, as it were, to just assume things about people and then follow through with it without really knowing per se. And then make your research and your educate yourself before you go to someone else's country, so that you know how it is that they behave, be open-minded, don't judge people, ask questions, and then make sure that you're active in your participation and all of that. And yeah, travel etiquette, we've talked about that. Yeah, so cultural events and ceremonies, if you're lucky to witness them, then just, do not intrude or disrupt unless you're invited to participate, and then practice norms that might be common and acceptable in one country might be frowned upon in another. For instance, public displays of affection, certain hand gestures, or even the way you beckon to someone can vary in meaning across cultures. So please, before you travel and all of that, know how people behave before you go there. Be very mindful of your modesty when you travel outside of the country, especially if you go to what's it called, Middle Eastern places where it's important for women to dress more modestly. Please be mindful of that, because at the end of the day, if you're not, you might get into trouble and you have no one to blame but yourself because you didn't make the proper research and all of that. Behave appropriately, be environmentally conscious, try not to litter people's countries when you go there, and don't show yourself to be less savory than or rather something that I'd like not to mention and all that. Be very, very mindful in your communication with them. Learn a few phrases. If you go to somewhere like Cotonou, I mean, you want to say hello to them, say bienvenue. You go to France, you want to say hello, you say bonjour. Things like that. You just want to be, you go to an Eastern southern country, southern African country or Eastern African country. You want to learn a few words in Swahili, you want to say Karibisana, I want to, just use different things and all of that, and then just say a few things, say Buenos dias, you say good morning, you say Guten Morgen in German, you say, you just learn a few of those things, and then you're more receptive, or they're more receptive to you, as it were. So, and then remember that facial expressions, gestures, personal space can differ in significance across different cultures. So you need to be observant and considerate, as it were. You listen actively, and you ask for permission before taking photos of people, especially in more remote traditional areas, and always ask for permission. So thank you very much for having me. I mean, I know it was a lot of information to cram into an hour, but I think we tried our best. So if you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you so much, everyone. I did enjoy speaking with you. Any questions, please?
Thank you so much, Madam Feishayo. Please, everyone, if you have a question, kindly chat in the chat room, and let's attend to your question. I believe most of us have experienced, for example, eating in public. You see some people eating with their mouth open, right? And you know how that felt as at the time. Right, and so many etiquettes that we have learned today, which would help us to be better individuals, right? There's also a story of, I think, a network engineer a software engineer who would report to the office with some flip-flops and some uncombed hair, right? Some ripped jeans, because I mean, he is a software engineer, but the personality or his quality is different, or his personal quality that he portrays is completely different from what he is supposed to portray. And that's why it is very important to us in Transformation College to see that, especially with this ongoing course, to see that we imbibe this quality into our students, especially these young ones who are on the call, right? So I believe today's this morning's session is quite educative, informative, and insightful, and would help us to become better individuals. So we're still waiting for your questions. If you have questions. Okay, somebody is asking in the chat room, do you think remote jobs are affecting etiquette in our current age? Okay, Madam
Absolutely. Absolutely, I do think so, because a lot of people do not feel the need to, because they can't even be seen, so they don't feel the need to behave appropriately or behave properly. But at least if you're even if you're doing your remote work and all of that, just remember that there's going to be a time where you still have to interact with people, and so it's important to know the right things to do per time. Yes. Precious says, oh, thanks for the lecture, Ma, you're welcome. So many etiquettes, and we do, commonly brush them off. Absolutely, we brush them off because we don't see the need for them. But however, they're very important. You're not going to be in this particular position forever. You're going to do greater things and meet great people and interact with important people. So it's important to know these things as well. Yes, absolutely. Any other questions?
Any other questions, please ask before we move on to the next session this morning. Okay. Someone is saying, I think going out to society enhances etiquette, but remote jobs are causing a damage. Yeah, we've
well,
Madam
so
said that.
everything in this world, as it were, has its advantages and disadvantages. So remote jobs have the advantage and they also have the disadvantage. But I mean, if you're not meeting people, then you're not misbehaving, so it's fine, as it were. But as long as you're going to be meeting people, then you need to be very mindful of how you behave. You need to express your decorum, as it were. Thank you.
Right.
What do you do in certain way?
Okay, and then somebody is okay. Go ahead, madam.
Yeah, somebody said, what do you do in a setting where administrators do not respect etiquette? I mean, you really can't call them out, because that is also bad decorum, to call out somebody who is misbehaving, as it were. So I mean, you just keep quiet and you try to ignore them as much as possible, as it were. And then thank you for the lecture, ma'am. Since you spoke about etiquette in various times, it's right to say that the Gen Z have a reason to behave in some unacceptable way. They have no reason to behave inappropriately. Nobody has any reason to behave inappropriately. I still said it a couple of weeks ago about when Ilebaye won the Big Brother. I said I don't think she should have won, because that seemed to me like rewarding bad behavior. So there's nobody should be allowed to behave inappropriately or wrongly, as it were. As a Nigerian, we use our hands to swallow fufu or eba. So do I need to force myself to use a fork to eat those? Absolutely not. There's no reason. That's why I said it's about other foods that require the use of those utensils, with eba or fufu or pounded yam or whatever it is. Please feel free to use your hands, however it is that you want to enjoy your food. Yes.
Okay, and then there's a question up there. There's a question up there that says, is it good to pick calls or operating your phone while dining?
No, it's not. It's inappropriate to do that, because dining is an intimate affair, and then you need to already make allowances for whoever might want to call you, unless it's an absolute emergency or necessity, and then you of course have to ask those people to please excuse you, that it's important that you need to pick that call. But generally, don't just pick the call all willy-nilly while you're dining.
All right, thank you so very much. This is quite an interesting class, and I believe everybody on the call would agree with this. So please, ladies and gentlemen, let's appreciate Madam Peistayo with a round of applause in the chat room. Thank you very much, Madam, for spending your time and sharing your time with us on today's class. We are really grateful and delighted. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I had a great time, and I really appreciate you allowing me on. Do have a delightful rest of the class, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day.
Thank you very much. All right, you too. Okay, so now we'll move straight to the next class. For today, we would be looking at ISO 20,000, and I'll be inviting the next speaker, or the next trainer rather, that we have this morning. All right, this morning, our next trainer is by name Ehindaru Adusi, and he is a highly accomplished professional with expertise in information security management systems and IT service management. He is proficient in ITIL-v4 and COVID-5 and a lead auditor certification in ISMS and ITSM. Ehindaru brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to the field of IT governance, security, and service management. All right, so let's welcome with a round of applause in the chat room, Ehindaru Damsi to take us on ISO 20,000. You're welcome. You can take it up from here, Ehindaru. I think you can unmute yourself so we can hear you talk. I hope
Hello,
you can
everyone.
hear me.
Can you hear me?
Okay. All right, you're welcome.
Can you hear me now, please?
Yes, very clearly.
Okay, and can you see my screen too?
Yes, I
Okay.
can.
Okay, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Like you heard, my name is Ehindaru Damsi, and I'll be taking us through the journey of ISO 20,000. And as much as possible, I would like this class, the next 1 hour, 30 minutes, to be a little bit of discussion. I know we can't talk, but I'll be asking some questions, and I would like us to have some input on it using the chat. So when I ask things, I will want to get your response from the chat box. So let's move to what we want to do today, which is ISO 20,000. I know for the past few weeks, we've all been able to discuss things on the different ISOs that we have. And I can bet that this screen you are seeing now is not new to you. You might have discussed a lot about the clauses from clause 4 to 10. And it might look like all of them are usually the same. But for ISO 20,000, we have a little adjustment to these clauses. For 4.4, we have the service management system. And then the major change we have will be in 7.0 and 8.0. First, in 7.0, we have what we call the 7.6. 7.6, which is usually not in the other ISO systems. 7.6 is what we call knowledge. We have something here that is called knowledge, which is 7.6. And that's 7.6. We have knowledge. It's usually just this standard has this 7.6. So if you've not seen that before, you see that we have 7.6, which is knowledge. We have something like that after 7.5, which also takes us to what we have in 8.0, which others don't usually have. Other standards don't have a lot of things in 8.0, but for ISO 20,000, all our processes are in 8.0. We have a lot of processes. So we have 8.1, 8.2, 8.3 to 8.7 in the operations. And we'll talk about some of these things in this class. We have things like change management, we have availability management, we have relationship management, we have incidents, and we have requests, we have build and transition. All these are in the 8.0, and we'll talk about not all, but some of these processes in 8.0. So without much ado, let's move on. But at this point, I would like us to do something. Please, let's go to the chat board and let's have what do we, as at today, understand when you say service? What do you understand by the word service? Because that's what will lead us through the understanding of what service management is and what the ISO 20000 at large is. So I want us to go to the chat box and individual, let's say our mind, let's talk about service. What do you understand by service? I would like to see that as the class goes on, but for now, I'll be expecting to get feedbacks from that. So the topics we are going to cover today will be introduction to IT service management system, the understanding the concepts of ISO 20000, and also some of the definitions, the benefits of ISO 20000, and the principle of SMS, which is ISO 20000. So we'll get to know all of this during the class. So ISO 20000, like any other ISO, is one of the best practices that we need in the world. ISO 20000 is a worldwide standard that describes the implementation of an integrated process approach for the delivery of IT services. And usually organizations need to adopt ISO 20000 if they want to meet up with the international or the world standard when it comes to service management. And is a set of minimum requirements to audit an organization. So if you are implementing ISO 20000, you would definitely be audited because it's a standard. And if it was first initiated in 2005, we'll still see the history, we'll still see how it goes on. But we want to understand that for an organization to have a proper SMS, anytime I talk about SMS, it's not the usual SMS, but we mean service management system. So when I use the word SMS, I want us to understand that we are talking about service management systems. So we need to understand that service management system is not just a framework. It's not just something that the organization might want to have or might not want to have. It's a standard, it's a requirement that the organization needs to have, and it will be audited for. So ISO 20000 is actually divided into 3 parts. We have 3 parts that it's divided into. I will be taking each one of those parts. First, we want to understand that the part 1 provides the requirement for IT service management to gain certification. Like I said, it's a standard. So organizations are certified to it. And then we having that knowledge, we can be the implementer, we can be the auditor, but we having the knowledge of how the organization is going to get certified to it. And one of the things the organization will have to do is making people have roles and responsibilities. So the part 1 of the requirement is basically the senior management giving roles, giving responsibilities to people. So senior management are responsible, accountable for ensuring that all the requirements of the part 1 are met. When we go on, we'll still see what are the requirements and how the how the top management can make sure that people in the organization actually meet up to these standards. The second part of the standard also talks about the code of practice for service management. It provides guidance to internal auditors and assist service providers. We'll still see who are the service providers and what the work of the internal auditor is. The internal auditor will make sure that they work hand in hand with the service provider to plan the service management and to provide continual improvement for the service management. And the third part have different things. That's why we call it the scope and applicability. It entails 4 different things. First is advice on the scoping of service management. One good thing about it is that for service management, you need to have a scope. You can't just it's not just something that is everywhere. The first thing you need to do in this third part is to have a scope of the service management. From here to here is what we want to do. If we are having a service management, these are the processes we as an organization want to comply to. These are the processes we want to do, and these are what we don't want to. So as an organization, we need to have that in mind. Then the planning and improvement. In ISO 20000, there's what we call the service management plan, and there's what we call the service improvement plan. So we'll still talk about that well as we go on, but what we need a planning and we need improvement. When we plan and we've done what we are supposed to do, there should be continuous improvement in ISO 20000. And the scope statement for the certification audit also should be in, we should have a scope of that. Then suggestions on applicability, including adding communications or the even wider technology-enabled service. So there's what they call the communication plan. There's what we call our communication scope. You want to have communication. Who are you communicating with? Which technology are you using for this communication? What are the processes you have in place? What are the technologies you will use to make sure these processes are done the right way? So moving to the history of ISO 20000, we won't discuss much about what happened between 1990 and 2005. But from 2005, we'll see that if we check our screen, we'll see that ISO 20000, that's when it became, we started calling it ISO 20000. And it moved from being just ITSM Code of Conduct to 2022, where we started calling it the Guideline on the Application of Service Management System. So it was not just a code of practice, but it became a guideline to the application of the practice. So we'll see that there was a development of this ISO 20000. So from its inception, it moved from what we used to know it to be to what we now have now to be the guideline of the application of service management system. So like we said earlier, let me now go through what we understand by service. I see someone said service is to help people. Yes. I see Austin said service is the act of providing assistance, support, performance, tasks to meet the needs and expectations of others. I like this definition. Work or something you render. Yes. Service is what you have to offer. I think that's okay too. Providing assistance or helping to solve a situation. For Ebon, it's somehow like that, but that's not 100%. An activity carried out by someone or an organization to satisfy the need of another. There's a word I'm looking for in the definition of service. If anyone had given that word, it will have been perfect, it will have been 100%. Someone said action of helping or doing work. Yes, service is duty rendered in a proper and acceptable way. And we have other definitions also. Thank you all for the definitions you've given. But service, for us to have a good definition of service, I will need the word value. Value is very important when we are defining what service is. The word value. Value is very important when we are discussing it. So if we want to define service, the means of delivering value to the customer. I've seen different definitions that we got here, but the fact is you can do something. You might help someone. Someone said the act of helping others is out of doing something for others. But if that thing does not create value, there is no value in what we've done. If we are rendering something to someone and the person is not getting value from it, that is not service. So any definition of service, any understanding of service that we have, and we are not is not in line with creation of value or rendering value to customers or to someone else, then our definition is not 100%. So service is the act of delivering values to customers. While service management, this can be said to be the set of capabilities or policies or processes to direct and control the activities and resources. So to make us understand value and service very well and service management, we said we are creating values. That's service. We are rendering value to people. Then service management in a layman definition is giving processes or activities or resources that will help us optimize the creation of value. Yes, we are creating value, but how good is the value we are creating? If we say we have a value we are giving to someone, but we don't have, for example, customer relation with that person, that means our value is not 100%. So giving good customer service, having a help desk is service management. Having resources, having communications with our customer, having feedbacks from our customer is service management. So all these processes, all these capabilities, all these policies that we put together, that is what makes service management. So if we are creating service, we have value that we are giving to people, and we don't have service management, then our value will not be 100%. It won't even be called value again. So service management makes it whole. It makes it complete. That is what service management does to service. So if we have a service we are giving as an organization to our customers, to a third party, and we don't have a good service management, then we are not doing it the right way. And that is the essence of ISO 20000, to make sure our service management is complete, is doable, and it gives its 100% to our customers. Now let's go back to understanding some terms in ISO 20000. In ISO 20000, we have terms like availability, configuration baseline, configuration items, known error, CMDB, which configuration management database, incidents, internal group problems, and so on. So let's take it one after the other. And at this point, I'll be asking us questions I want to get our feedback from the chat box. Now, when we say availability is the ability of service or service component to perform its required function at an agreed instant or over an agreed period of time. Availability management is one of the processes we have in Clause 8. I was telling you earlier that we have a lot of processes in Clause 8, and one of them is availability management. What do we mean when we talk about availability management? It is making sure that our services or service components are always available. Let me give you an example. When you see our telecommunication companies, there are sometimes they'll send us message that between 12 o'clock and 3 o'clock, 12 a.m. to 3 a.m., there'll be no network, or they will be unavailable. I don't know if you've gotten that kind of message before. Let me you can type yes so that I can get your feedback. Have you had messages like that from your network provider where they will say between so period of time there'll be no network, or they want to do an upgrade, or they are working on something? You see something, even apart from telecommunication, even power supply, AEDC, they usually send some messages like that, even banks and so on and so forth. Thank you. So that is availability management. And in availability management, we have what we call the planned non-availability and unplanned. We have planned non-availability and unplanned. Planned non-availability is what we get when we get those messages. That's part of service management. Planned non-availability is when they send you that message that we want to use the next 3 hours to work on our system. That is planned non-availability. So They know that this upgrade is important, this service is important, what they want to do is important. So they'll tell you maybe a day or two beforehand that we want to use this period to work on our services. That's planned non-availability. And then we have what we call unplanned. That's when your network just goes off for hours. I think it around that last year or so, it happened to Facebook. About 6 hours, Facebook was off. That's unplanned. And sometimes you might be in your environment and you notice that for a certain period of time, you have network downtime, or in your organization, you have network issue. That is unplanned. So that is what availability management is all about. Making sure that you are always available. Making sure that you are always available. And there is a thing, not even really a thing, like there's a difference between this availability and business continuity. I know we might not have talked about business continuity, but when we get to that stage, when we get to the ISO, the business continuity management system, you remember that I said this, that there's a difference between availability and business continuity. But availability now is what we are focusing on, which is when our service, making sure that our service is always on. While business continuity is making sure our service is on when there is disaster. But for availability, there is no disaster, but you have network downtime, you have network failure, you have one of those things that happens maybe when you go to bank, when your network, when your electricity, your supply is cut off for some hours because they want to work. Maybe the national grid goes down and things like that. That's availability. So making sure that your service is always available is one of the things that you need to know about service management. So in service management, when you hear availability, that is what should always come to our mind. Then configuration baseline. Configuration baseline is just basically about configuration information formally designated at a specific time during a service or a service component lifetime. We have configuration items, elements that need to be controlled in order to deliver a service or services. And these configuration items can be our laptop, our desktops, our computer, our servers. All these are configuration items. Their configuration items, they usually have a serial number. They usually have all these things so that we can always make sure all these configuration items, we have them listed, we have them working, and so on. So we have what we call the configuration management database. That's the data store. That's the list of all the configuration items we have in our organization, their relationship between each other, their lifespan, and or if they are working, if they are not working. So when you have a configuration database, some organization uses they use Excel to do this, while other organizations have automated the process using Manage Engine, using Freshdesk, and any other form, GLPI, and any other form of service management tool. You can see other organizations using tools like Jira Management System. So there are tools we can use for configuration management database, which is having a data store, having a list of all our configuration items and the relationship between each other, and maybe their status, if they are still working or they are not working, and so on and so forth. Then from this, let's now move on to 3 things I want us to talk about together, which are incident, problem, and known error. So for incidents are unplanned interruptions to our services, reduction in the quality of service, or event that has not yet impacted the service to the customer. So in incident, when it comes to ISO standards, different standards have their different approach to incidents. Like in information security, we might have another approach to incident management. In ISO 20000 in SMS, we have another approach. In business continuity management system, incident is different. But for us in ISO 20000, these are incidents that occur that interrupt our service. We are working, our service is working, and something happens and the quality reduces,
or it stopped working, or we have situation where our network goes down. That's an incident and it needs to be reported. It needs to be worked on. So incidents usually happens in organizations like that. Now let's do another dialogue. What do we mean by problem? Yeah, we see here that they say problem is root cause of one or more incident. Can you, what is your own understanding of problem? Let me get, because usually when I have this kind of class and say problem, what usually comes to people's mind is their individual problems they are having in their houses or they are having at work. Or when we say problem, what do you mean? Can someone like, I want to see our feedback. I want to get our feedbacks on problem. When we say problem or problem management, what do we actually mean? What is your understanding, your personal understanding of problem in ITSM? I don't want us to use, I saw somebody using root cause. Don't use root cause again. I want you to get the under, what's your own under. If you are using root cause, you are using what's on the screen. So I want you to say what you understand as as problem. When you say you have a problem management case in the organization, what do you understand as the problem should be like? Okay, someone said an act of undermining the quality of service or value. Yeah, I can see Salman said problem is an unpleasant situation. Thank you. Problem is defined as a challenge one phase, Okay, I would like to get more. Anyone else? Because of something with negative effects. Okay, unexpected outcome. Incident without root cause. Okay, I want to get more. Okay, okay, that's okay. That's okay. So, for us to understand better what incident is, I would say incident is when we have lots of problem is when we continuously have incidents, it becomes a problem. Now, to make us understand what problem is, when you continuously have an incident, let's say you're at your office and your network goes bad. Your network goes bad and you report it. You report it to your IT department. I'm having network issue on my laptop. And after 30 minutes, you have that same issue again. You report it. They come, they fixed, they do some troubleshooting and it was fixed. The second day, and it's only you that is having that problem, that is having that incident. It keeps coming, it keeps coming. It's no longer an incident. When at some point the organization will now, okay, this is a problem. Why is this always happening? Why is this person always having this network issue? So at that time, they are no longer seeing it as an incident. When incident keeps happening, it is no longer an incident, it becomes a problem. So at that point, you are trying to say, what is the root cause of this incident? So when it becomes a problem, the definition now has changed. For we are not seeing it as something that it happens, let's go and treat it. We're now trying to find the root cause. And it takes us back to what you know as known error. So at that point, that thing that usually happens to your laptop has now become a known error, a problem that has an identified root cause or a method of reducing or eliminating this part on the service by working around it. So you now see that as a known error. This problem that this person is having on a laptop is a known error. This person's network issue that only affects his laptop alone has become a known error. So to treat it in problem management, there's something now called workaround. Before you get the permanent solution to it, you can do what you call workaround. Okay, what can we do for this person to start to at least have something to use? Maybe you change the network from the organization network to maybe a private network for him that's okay, use this one for now until we find a lasting solution. So when you now have it, when you've detected a problem in an organization, when a problem have been detected, what you usually want to do is finding a lasting solution. So now you announce, okay, this problem, are we buying a new laptop for him? Are we changing his workstation? Are we taking him from here to another place? And so you're now finding a lasting solution. You are not just coming again to rectify and see if it will work for a day or two. Now, okay, let's buy, I think it's his hardware. Maybe he needs to, maybe it's his laptop that is the functionality is low. We need to upgrade his RAM, we need to upgrade his laptop and so on. So you now try to find a lasting solution. You now try to get the root cause of the problem. Okay, let's troubleshoot, let's change his laptop and see if he's having, maybe it's the cord he's using and so on. So that is problem management. And problem, as we said, is a continuous incident happening. When an incident keeps happening, it becomes a problem. Let's use another example. You have a biometric door in your organization, and at some point the biometric door, sometimes the biometrics does not work or the door does not open, and you log it as an incident. You have an incident on floor 5, our door is not working, you log it. After 2 days, it was resolved. After 2 days, it happened again. This door is not working again, you log it. If you log it like 4 or 5 times consistently, the organization will now say, okay, this is no longer an incident. It is now a problem. It's now a service problem. How do we solve it? So you now do a root cause analysis. What's the root cause? Is it this product? Do we usually have problem anytime we buy this product? It might be your laptop, and you see that, okay, the Dell laptop is the problem. So going forward, we are not giving this person Dell laptop. We will change to HP and see if this person will not be having this laptop again. You're having a network issue, and every day your network is not, you are not having network. You might say, okay, maybe MTN is the problem. Let me switch to SpectraNet. Let me switch to another network provider. So you are trying to find the root cause of that incident. And at that point, it's no longer an incident, it becomes a problem. And it's a process on its own called problem management. So problem management is different. It's so different from incident management. Okay, Joyce said, yes, was the phase I was going through at the beginning of this class until I was able to detect it was my network. So when you keep having issues, when you keep having the same incident occurring, like the process, the example Joy gave now, it might be your network, after 5 minutes, your network keeps going up. After another 5 minutes, your network, and it's interrupting your service to your customers. Then it's no longer an incident. It becomes a problem. You are not looking at, let me try again. You now want to find a lasting solution. So you now log that as a known error. This error keeps on occurring, and I want to solve it. So now I need to change my network. Maybe I need to buy data on another network and try if it is this current network that I'm using that is the problem. Let me try and use another network. When you try that and you see you are still, maybe it's my phone or it's my laptop that is the problem. Let me try and use another laptop, and so on. So when it becomes a problem, you are trying to get a root cause, to get to the root cause of that incident and find a lasting solution. So in service management is one of the things that an organization usually wants to do, want to manage. So in incident, the organization would need to have an incident log, which will help the organization to trace incidents, how it's happening, and also incidents are usually classified. Incidents are usually classified. You need to prioritize and classify. This is a minor incident, this is a major incident, different types of incidents that you have, and then the prioritization. This is high, this is low, this is medium. This is a high incident. Maybe your network incident might be a medium or a low incident, and then like the door we use as an example might be a high incident in your organization. When you have, or you are usually having power supply issue. When you have power supply issue and it keeps on coming, you have generator, you have your normal electricity, and at some point you see that this two does not work, or your generator doesn't work when you need it. So it becomes an incident, you log it, you might say, okay, in our organization, when we have electricity issue, it's logged as a high, is a major incident. So you are as high and it needs to be treated immediately. Low incidents might not take you might not need urgent. You might also say low incidents are incidents that happens to maybe one person, only Joy that is not having internet in the organization. So that's the low incident. But when we have 5 to 10 people in the organization not having internet or not being able to access what they are supposed to do in the organization, that's medium. And then high is when it can cause maximum impact on the organization. Maybe the network is down for the whole organization. Maybe there is power shortage and it's affecting the whole organization. That's a major incident. And you might have, okay, when this kind of incident happens, it must be solved in the next 30 minutes. It must not take more than 30 minutes for you to, or it must not take more than 10 minutes for you to solve high incidents. But for low incidents, you might say, okay, 2 hours or 3 hours is our time to solve such incidents. So the organization will have all these kind of things in their document, state all these kind of things, and also have a log of all of them to always do follow-up. And when you have problem too, for problem management too, you need a log of all the problems and the time it takes you to solve those problems. Another thing we need to talk about as that is important in the organization is release management. With one of the processes also that I talked about that is in the clause 8 of ISO 20000, release management. Release is the collection of one or more new or change configuration items deployed into live environment as a result of one or more changes. But for us to understand release management, we need to understand change. Change management comes first. And here we talk about request for change. Requesting for change might be you want to request for a change of something in your service, a new thing in your service, you are bringing up a new thing, or you are changing something existing thing in your service. To understand what you mean by change and logging of change request, are there people in this call now that uses GT Bank? If you use GT Bank, can it signify yes? Let me know those that use GT for transaction. If you use GT, you know that of recent they made an upgrade or a change to their application, to their internet application, to the application, and this is a form of change, service change that we are talking about. If you use GT, you know you have to. It now has a new interface. Their banking application has a new interface now that you need to use. You had to do an upgrade. The whole phase have changed. The way you do your transaction have changed and everything. The organization have to pass through this change request. Someone will initiate that change. We request for that change. Okay, let's make this change. And it will be logged. That change, there is what we call the CAB, the Change Advisory Board. The Change Advisory Board will look into, okay, this change is good. These are the changes you want to put into place on this application, this banking application. Okay, we approve of this change. The business analyst will now draw it, maybe using tool like pencil to draw it and say, okay, this is how the new interface will look like. And it will now go into transition to be taken to the IT, to the developers to develop it. And now it takes us to what we have here when we talk about release. It now takes us to release. So change comes first. Change comes first. We have change first, then followed by release. we have change first, and then we have release as the second part of it. So change is when you propose for a change to be made to your service or the service component of a service management system. It might be part of the service, might be a whole change to what you are doing generally. It might be just a part of that service that you want to change. It might be any of these, but you need to make a request for change. That's the proper way to go about it. That change will be logged. The change advisory board will approve it. Then if it's something that needs to be built, we take it to the IT, take it to the developer and to build, and then selection of one or more new or change configuration items deployed into the live environment. So for release acceptance check, to check before you release, users will check and you say, okay, it has met with what we need to do. But then also before release, sometimes you might need to have what we call the service level agreement for such new service that or change to your service. You might have your service level agreement. So it all works hand in hand. Then you might want to start from this. You have this, then before you get this. So you need to request for the change. After the change after you requested for the change, then you move to, if it's something that needs service level agreement, SLA, you document agreement between service provider and the customer that identifies service and request, especially if you are having to deal with your supplier. We'll still talk about supplier later. If it's something that you have to deal with suppliers, then definitely you will need a service level agreement, and then you release to the live environment. And like I said, before you release, there is also a process you need to go through. And the process is probably you do your UAT, user acceptance, and then test. And then you might have your release plan, especially if it's a very big organization and you have a lot of release you want to do in the year. So you might have your release plan. You don't just release at each point. I will agree that, like the example we used of GT Bank, they will have had their plan of this is the right time for us to release this new banking app. After we release this, we are going to release another thing, maybe our loan app. We are going to release this and this. And so they will have different plans. So one of the things you need to have in release management is also release plan. So like I said earlier, that there is a difference between service continuity and service availability. Can someone remind me of the difference I said there is between service continuity and service availability? I would like to check if we still remember what I said was the difference. I said availability and continuity, there's a thin line between the two of them. If we understand that thin line, we'll be able to understand the difference between service continuity and service availability. Is there anyone I would like to see? You can type it. I'll be waiting. Well, before that, service continuity is the ability, the capability to manage risk and event that could have serious impact on service or services in order to continually deliver service at agreed level. So what's the difference between this, managing the event of services in order to continually deliver, and availability, which is us being able to deliver at all time? What's the thin line between these two? Anyone? Okay, if there is no one, I said earlier that the difference between service continuity and availability is that for continuity, you are making sure that in case of disaster, in case of something happens, you can still continue with your service at the agreed level. So in service continuity, you are saying that even if there is protest in Nigeria, even if there is earthquake, even if there is war, like and everything, and all these things are happening, you will still be able to deliver your service at the agreed level. You are a communication network, and you said you are going to give your customers 5G network or 4G network. if there is protest going on, will you still be able to give that 4G network, or will you be able to give that 5G network at that same level, even though there is protest going on, there is flood, there is earthquake, there is fire incidents in your building, you will still be able to deliver at that level. That is continuity. But in case of availability, is just you saying I'll always be available. But continuity is saying that even if there is problem, if there is risk, if there is an event that occurs, if there is a disaster, I will still be able to deliver at the agreed level. So that's the difference between the two. So like I said, let's move on. Let's move on. I want to connect supplier to the service level agreement. So your supplier in the organization, or supplier is an organization or part of an agreement that is external to the service provider's organization and enters a contract with the service provider to contribute to its design, transition, delivery, improvement of a service or services or process. So your suppliers are people that want to contribute to your services or to your transition. You are meeting someone outside the organization to contribute to what you are doing. The person bringing in food for you is your supplier, because if you don't eat that lunch in your organization, or at the time you need to eat that lunch, you won't be able to work effectively. It will have an impact on your services or your processes. The supplier, the vendor that is giving you a process or a part of the process you need in your organization is your supplier. Your network provider is your supplier. You are using Etiquette, you are using Glo, you are using MTN to browse in your office. They are your suppliers. And you have different type of suppliers and vendors. People supplying you with toiletries and all those things, they are your suppliers. You need all these people for your service to work very well. And some of these suppliers or vendors might also be technology-wise, but you need these third-party or external providers to make your service to work very well. So one thing you need to do when you now meet with these suppliers is for you to have a service level agreement with them. It is important to have service level agreements with your supplier. You will notice that when we define supplier here, there's something we talked about here. Is we talked about entering into contracts with them. We have this, and having a contract with them is very important. So this contract can be in form of this SLA, signing service level agreement. You are a network provider, you are providing for our organization. What is your service level agreement? What level are you giving us? So you now sign a contract that says that we are going to give you 5G. We'll be giving you this 5G 24/7 always, or this service we are providing for you is only Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. This service we are providing for you does not include public holidays. We won't come on December 25th and January 1st. So all these agreements need to be made and we need to be signed. So you need to enter agreements with your external providers to show what is the level of they are going to provide these services for you. So that's why we have what we call the service level agreement, which we need to sign with our external suppliers. And one other thing we need to have in this case is our service, our supplier database. We need to have a supplier database, a list of all the suppliers we have in our organization, a list of all the suppliers we have in our organization. And if we're having a service level agreement with them, we need to state it in that list. If we are not having, we need to state it. It's just like if you have a supplier database for the woman that brings food, you might not, most of them, you might not have a contract with that woman. It's just someone that serves you. You have their contact number, you have their email address, you have who you contact there, but you might not have a service level agreement with such a person. So it should be stated in your supplier database that these woman that provides us food, we don't have contact with them, but this MTN or this internet provider that provides us with internet, we have we have an SLA with them, and this SLA is what we use for to deal with them. So having that in mind is very important. Earlier, we talked about what services are and what is service management. So now we want to move to why service management is required. We've understood a lot of things about service management now. So let's go to why it is important, why it is required. Service management is actually required because organizations are increasingly depending on IT service provision. Many organizations depend on IT now than ever before. So service management is very important because it manages the value, it makes us, it takes the value we are giving to our customers to 100%. So it is very important that we have service management. It helps us with higher visibility, more exacting user demands, increase complexity of the infrastructure. And when we talk of infrastructure, we are not talking about the building alone, but the different infrastructure, the different IT infrastructures we have, and it requires for completion of customers. So service management is also important because it is top to bottom. It's something that is driven from the top management. So the business is very important that we have IT service management in our organization because it is designed to focus on the people, the processes, and the technology. This is something also we need to put into mind, that IT service management focus on people, processes, and the technology. It focus on the people in terms of the employees in the organization, the customers that we are dealing with, are external parties. And then the processes, the different processes are also focused on in IT service management. Processes like availability, like changes, like service requests, like release management, release and deployment, like transition and build, like service level management, like relationship management. All these processes are what IT service management focuses on. And also it focuses on the technology we use to achieve these processes. What are the technologies? When we say, for our capacity management, what technologies do we use? For our availability management, what technologies do we use? Do we have technologies like New Relics, like WhatsApp Gold, different technologies that we can use? Manage Engine. Manage Engine does a lot more of all these processes. It can help with supplier database, can help with configuration management, it can help with asset management, it can help with CMDB, it can help with problem management, incident, request, change, and so on and so forth. So the technology we are going to use also is focused on when we deal with IT service management. So what are the keys to effective and efficient service delivery? When we say effective and efficient, what are the things that will make service management, our service delivery top-notch? In our organization, the first thing, and one of the most important, is the top management commitment. Top management commitment is very important. The top management needs to be committed to SMS. The top management needs to be committed to making sure that our service delivery is top-notch. And one of the roles of the top management is also the second one, the Assigning roles and responsibilities is also the work of the top management. So the top management also needs to do this and also do this. The top management also will do these appropriate resources. The top management will assign roles and responsibility. Who is going to be the release manager? Who is going to be the change manager? Who is going to be the incident manager? Who is going to be the SMS manager? All these roles and responsibilities will come from top management. Also, in clause 7.1, where we talk about resources, appropriate resources, there is no way we are going to have an efficient service delivery that we won't need resources. And these resources also will be provided by the top management. So it's also the work of the top management to provide appropriate resources. Then for efficient and effective service delivery, we need participation at all levels. Everyone in the organization needs to participate. So participation at all levels is very important. Everyone, to the cleaners in the organization, to the gate man, everyone in the organization needs to be part of the process and needs to be committed to what you are doing. Another thing we need to put into mind is correct training, education, and awareness, which is also the job of top management. Also, top management will do that, and adequate procedures and documentation will also make us to have effective and efficient documentation. And then auditing, always internal and external audit is also important. So let's move on. Let's move on to benefit of ISO 20000. We have different benefits to it. We produce higher IT service quality, because if we put all these things in place, our service quality will definitely improve. And apart from that, we have increased customer satisfaction. Our customers will be satisfied, and that is one of the processes in clause 8, which is relationship management. Our relationship with our customers, doing surveys, always having user satisfaction surveys, getting feedback from our customers is always important, and create high customer confidence. When our customers know we are certified, our organization is certified to ISO 20000, they are confident to do business with us. And we can also bid for contracts from government or private organization. Now, there's one other framework that is called ITIL, that's Information Technology Infrastructure Library. So ITIL and ISO 20000, they have a lot of things in common, but they're a little bit different. And the major difference between these two that I will highlight, I will discuss, is this here. The fact that ITIL is not a standard. ITIL is a framework, while ISO 20000 is a standard. So that is the difference between the two, and that is where we have a lot of processes that is in ITIL and that is in ISO 20000. But ISO 20000 helps to complement ITIL, because ISO 20000 is a standard that the organization needs to meet up with. You will be audited, you'll be certified to it, while ITIL is just a framework, it's a nice to have. That is why the first point here says that ITIL is driven through choice or by customers' demand. ITIL has been adopted by many organizations as a proven methodology for managing their IT services. But basically, ITIL is just a nice to have framework. You will not be audited for it, but if you do it very well, it is very good. But for ISO 20000 is a standard, you'll be audited, you'll be certified to it. So that is the difference, the major difference between the two. Then let's move on to talk about this basic principle and concept. We won't take much time. We've talked about processes. We've seen processes in general. We've seen the different processes. We'll see how we can manage all these processes. We've talked about processes, different ISO 20000 SMS processes. We've talked about release management. We've talked about all the management of all these processes already and how we can assess those processes. So we won't dwell much on that. But let's see how these all these processes work hand in hand. So the basic relationship of these processes are highlighted on this diagram. This diagram will help us to understand the basic relationship between all these processes. Like I said earlier, we've talked about these processes already. We've talked about the configuration, the CMDB. We've talked about incident, service level agreement, service request, the service catalog, problem, release, and so on. All of them are they're interwoven. They help each other. So let me give an example. We talked about incident earlier and problem. And you see here, you will see that they both complement each other. We said information, incident management and problem management. You see the trigger and info comes from the two. The trigger and the information comes from the two. And earlier, I also talked about change, the relationship between change management and release management. You see the information and the trigger, the change management, the information and the trigger goes to release management. So before you can have good release management, your change management system must be perfect. It has that relationship with release management, it has the finest relationship here with release management. And service request, for you to make services and to make requests, incidents, any incident you have, you make requests. If you have problem, it goes also to your request. All this passes through request management, service request, and service request fulfillment. So this is the relationship between all these services. Now, what is the objectives and benefits of all this? The objective is the management of IT service for fulfillment of basic requirements. For you to have the fulfillment of these, and when you do, what are the benefits? You have the effective and efficiency of workflow, especially when it comes to relationship management and most of these processes. Your workflow is very important, and if your workflow is efficient and effective, then you have a perfect SMS ITSM. And another one one of the benefits that is important that I would like to talk about is improved communication and knowledge management. Improved communication and knowledge management for me is very important, that the organization have improved. That is one of the good benefits. You need when you do SMS very well, it improves your communication either internal with your internal stakeholders or with your external stakeholders. And also your knowledge management, like I said, 7.6, which we don't have in any other of standard or any other of these ISO standard is 7.6, which is knowledge management. And 7.6 is very important because all the knowledge you've gathered, all the experience you had, all the solutions you have, you need to manage them as knowledge. And this knowledge needs to go through everyone in the organization. There are some communications, there are some things everyone in the organization needs to know. And this knowledge will help them. Then we talked about roles in process management. And one of the things is, like we said earlier, the top management needs to set out these roles and responsibilities, the work of the top management, and set of responsibilities, activities, and authorities granted to persons or teams. So in ITSM, we will have who are the champions, who is the change manager, who is the SMS manager. All these roles and responsibilities will be communicated by the service, by the top management, and all these people will carry on their roles and responsibilities. We have the process owners. Who are the process owners in the organization? These roles will be communicated. We have the process managers, like example I've given, who is the release manager, who is the change manager, who is the incident manager, and their responsibility. So like the process managers now, they have their responsibility. They have what they need to do as a process manager. He said They are responsible for realization of the process, day-to-day control and management, while the process owner is responsible for the process result. So everyone in the organization will have their role and responsibilities. It might not be personal, it might be the team, it might be a team. Like we have the role, the top management, you have to say who are the CAB, the change advisory board. That's a team of people handling a process or handling something in the organization. So all these roles and responsibilities will be communicated to everyone in the organization. And then the KPIs also need to be agreed on, the metric reflecting the degree of target achievement. So in the organization, we might have KPIs like, for incidents, the number of incidents that were solved in a month or in 3 months over the number that was not solved, or the number of requests that were gotten over the number of requests that were solved within a specific period of time. So we need to have all these KPIs stated in the organization and need to be calculated. If the process is automated, it makes this calculation easier. But if it is not, you need to do it manually. So you do it by month, by quarterly, or any how we want to do it, but we need to have KPIs to know what is our critical success factors, to know, are we improving, are we doing better? So if you have this KPI, you know, okay, last month, between this month and last month, I've been able to improve more than we've done before. So let's quickly move on. Let's move on to the next one we want to talk about. Sorry. Let's quickly move on to I'm sharing my screen. Can you all see my screen? Please, if you can see my screen, type yes.
Yes, we can see your screen now.
Okay, thank you. So quickly, like I said earlier when we started, we said ISO 20,000 has been divided into 3 parts, which is 0 to 3, then plus 4 to 7, and 8 to 10. But basically, when we deal with it, we usually deal with this last 2, which is 4 to 7 and 8 to 10, context of the organization, leadership. I know we've talked about all these ones before in one way or the other. And like I said earlier, our focus is on operations, which is 8. And this here is an overview of the SMS, the service management system. And you remember I said earlier that the most important part that usually is missing in the other standards that we don't have is knowledge. Knowledge is usually the one that others don't have. So we have knowledge here. Knowledge management usually is in ISO 20,000, and it is very important part of ISO 20,000 because it helps us in gathering what we've known so far, which others don't usually do. In ISO 20,000, knowledge is also automated, can also be automated. Some use manage engine, some use Rock, some use Slack, Notion, and other tools to manage knowledge. So we already have an understanding of that. Then let's see quality management principles and ISO 20,000 requirements. What are the principles and how do they affect ISO 20,000? One of the first one is customer focused. ISO 20,000, planning for new or change service shall be agreed with the customers. So in ISO 20,000, we usually get feedbacks from customers. That is why earlier I said in relationship management, you do user satisfaction survey. When you do such surveys, you try to check what the customers want and what are their needs. So you want to get their needs and expectation, and with that, you make changes to your plan, to your services, or bring up a new service. Like I used the example of GT earlier, the change might have been from customers. Like customers say, this your interface, we are not enjoying it. These are the things lacking, it's hanging, this is happening, that is happening. So the response they get might be the reason why they bring up, they make a change to their service or bring up a new service. So it's always focused on customers. And then leadership. Also in ISO 20000, leadership also is very important. The top management provide evidence of its commitments to planning. And this, the top management does by issuing a letter that we are committed to SMS. We are committed to making sure all these things goes well. The operating, the monitoring, the review, the maintaining, the improving of the SMS, we are committed to it. So leadership is also a good, one of the things that top management, that ISO 20000 focuses on. And another one is involvement of people, the service provider personnel, people, the employees, they are all involved. That's why they give them training, skills, experience, all these things, awareness. All these are focused on the people to make sure they have all these. They are well trained. They have there is awareness training that goes on and so on. And process approach, like we said, we have different processes in the organization, and then there is a good approach to make sure that all these processes are done very well. And for us to have a good approach, what we usually have is the service management plan. Service management plan gives us a very nice approach to all the processes. We are still going to talk about the service management plan as we move forward. And then now we want to move into establishing and implementing SMS, establishing and implementing a service management system. And what is the reason? What's the reason why I want to implement? Because ISO 20000 has become a basic requirement for an organization in the same manner as the quality management system. And also ISO 20000 SMS provides the organization with the means to operate more effectively and efficiently. And most importantly, ISO 20000 helps to significantly improve the morale of the IT departments and the business, and ultimately the customer. This is one of the most important reasons, because it helps to improve the morale of the IT department. That's why you see, when we talk of SMS, we also talk about ITSM, which is basically the IT service management. So SMS can be service management system, that is service management in general, but ITSM is focused on IT service management, how to improve the morale, how to improve IT department. And that is why the ITIL version 4 that we talked about earlier is also focused on IT department and how to improve IT. Then after improving IT, you can now talk about the service and ultimately the business at large, and ultimately the customers. So that is a very good reason for implementation, so that the morale of the IT department will be high. Everything the IT department needs, which is the bedrock of the business itself, will be gotten. So one thing we also need to look at currently again is the benefits for implementation. Like we said earlier, I'm just going to take one of the most important benefits that we've not talked about, because so far we've been talking about the benefits of IT, SMS, the benefit of its implementation, but we've not really talked about the fact that it's we've not talked about this part of it, of it improves quality, reputation, and consistency of service. Basically, when we implement, it helps with the consistency of service, and that is where we talk about if we implement availability very well, and if we implement service continuity very well, there will be consistency in the organization service. There will be consistency in how it is being the services happen in the organization. So we have different phases to implementation, and these different phases we will use the PDCA life cycle to make sure these phases are done very well. We have these phases are up to 11, and the PDCA will be used to make sure the implementation goes on very well. Have you heard of PDCA before? If you've heard, what is the meaning of PDCA? Can I get that in the comment section? Can we get that in the comment section? What the meaning of PDCA? Okay, thank you, Daniel. PDCA is plan, do, check, act. Okay, Austin also plan, do, check, act. Thank you very well. Thank you, Joy at ABC, plan, do, check, act. So the PDCA is what we use to implement these phases. And the first phase is identify business objectives, obtain management support. First of all, the identify business objectives might be the gap analysis that we want to do. Then we get support of the management, the top management, obtain management support. Then select the proper scope of implementation, understand what is the scope, from what is the scope of what we want to implement, and then define the method of risk assessment. That's clause 6, when we define risk assessment. Then prepare an inventory of information assets to protect. Then you need to do your asset inventory, have your assets register. Then you go to manage the risk itself and the risk treatment. That's clause 8. Do that. Then set up policies and procedures to control risk. Then allocate resources and train the staff, which is in clause 7. You allocate resources, you do competence, awareness, and all those stuffs. Then monitor the implementation of the ISMS, which is in clause 6. Then prepare for the certification audits, which is clause 9, and conduct periodic reassessment audits, which is also in clause 9. So now let's talk about the PDCA. Like we said earlier, many of us have given us what it means: plan, do, check, act. And let's see how we can use it also for ITSM, for SMS. Plan is the first one, which is to plan ahead of change, analyze and predict the results. Then do is to execute the plan that we have, which is taking small steps in control of the circumstances. Then check the results, what we've done. Did we do it very well? Was it properly done? And taking actions to standardize or improve. Then what we've checked and we've seen we've not done very well, we do we come back to it and take actions to make sure we've done it very well. And then we do continual improvement, continue to improve on what we have. So the first thing in which is the plan that we talked about, is to plan the implementation and delivery of service management. And this we can do using the service management plan. We'll still talk about the service management plan, which is the plan we have for everything we want to do pertaining to all the processes and what we want, how we want to achieve those processes. How do we do this? We create a plan for implementing service management. The plan is called the service management plan. And then we'll say who is responsible, who is going to authorize, how we are going to communicate, operate, and maintain this plan. All this will be made available, and all process related to the plan must be compatible with the service management plan. So in our service management plan, what we want to have in that plan will be the scope of the service, the objectives, requirements to be achieved by service management, processes to be executed, framework of roles and responsibilities, the tools to be used. So if you have a process, if you are doing incident, in your plan, you must say, okay, this incident, this is the objective of this incident management. This is the tool we want to use to achieve better incidents. We are going to be using Manage Engine. Everybody in the organization need to log into Manage Engine to make their to report incidents and so on. So all these things needs to be highlighted. Resources are to make sure this risk is done. Approach to risk. If there is going to be a risk attached to getting this management plan done, will also be highlighted in this document. And the method to manage service quality, all this will be highlighted in our service management plan. And also, there's something that is not here. If there are limitations, if there is something for one reason, there is any reason why we won't be able to achieve this plan, we can also state it in our service management plan that, okay, in our organization or resources might be an issue because we have these tools, these tools that I want to buy, but we don't have much resources. Or employee staff might be an issue. We have all this in place, but we don't have enough staff. So you might have some limitations that you want to also state in your documents, your service plan, that these are the limitations, these are the things that might be a problem to our implementation of our service management plan. And so also events with impact on that can impact on the service management plan will be the service improvement. If there are changes to the target state of infrastructure, if there are any legal requirements or visual requirements, if regulatories or the regulation of branches, or if there is a merger, all this can affect our service management plan. Then the do part of it is to implement the service management objective and plan. In the first plan, we've asked our service management plan. Then it is now the time for us to do all these things. And what do we need to do? The first thing we need to do is to allocate budget, give roles and responsibilities. Who are the people managing all these processes? Who will be in charge of all this should be said. Then proper documentation. If there are policies, if there are procedures, definition of processes, we should document. We should have all these documents under the do part of it. And then our team should be in touch. We should manage our team, manage our facilities and budget, and so on. And then we move on to check. When we talk about check now, we are talking about checking what we've done so far. Checking what we've been able to do is also very important. And then to monitor, to check means that is clause 9 of the standard, which is to monitor, measure, and review the service management objective and plan. So for check now, we are going back to see all these things we've planned, all these things we've done. Let's now check if we actually achieve them. We might have had our KPIs. Okay, what am I going to use to check if we've done it very well? These are my KPIs. These are what I have planned to use to check them and make sure that all these things are done properly. Then how to do this is to appropriate method should be applied for monitoring and measuring process to disclose achievement of target. You have a target. Let's say, for example, training. Your plan will be, I want to train, we have 100 staff. I want to make sure this year we train 20. So you now go on to monitor and see how many were we able to train. Okay, out of 20, we were able to train 17. So which is about 80% or 70% of what we actually wanted to achieve. So you might have your target, like, okay, my target is 20, but what I was able to achieve is 17, which is 85% of what I wanted to achieve. So that is what you that's what you work on the next year. So an audit program also will be planned, and all these are under check to make sure you check what you've done. So in case of failure to fulfill obligation or other problematic concern, all relevant parties shall be informed. So after you've done an audit and you notice that there is some non-conformities, major or minor non-conformities, there are observations, the people that are involved, relevant parties should be
informed of such. So when we want to make assessments, when we are checking ourselves, one of the things in audit is assessment. And these assessments can come in various forms. We have assessments can come in terms of we self-assess ourselves. So that's the department. Each department is assessing themselves and see, are we actually doing the right thing? Then we can have our first party audits, which is our internal audit. That is, in our organization, we will have an internal audit department that audits everyone in the organization except themselves. So we now do internal audit. We can also have second party, which is our vendor, our supplier. If they have interest in auditing what we've done, they can also come and do an audit. And then the third party audit will be the external audit, which might be the certification body that is trying to audit us to make sure we get certified to ISO 20000 or we are doing the right thing. So the external audit will be the last part of it. And the act part, which is the last one, is the continual improvements. You've planned, you've done what you are supposed to do, you've checked yourself to make sure you are doing the right thing. Now the act now is for you to continually improve, continually to make sure you deliver, continually to make sure you do what you are doing currently. That training you've done, that incident management that you've put in place, that request, that change that you've done correctly to make sure you continually do it is also very important. So for us to do this, we need policies, and a published policy for service improvement is required. Then roles and responsibility also is required. And like we said earlier, if there is non-conformity, when we check ourselves and we notice that there are non-conforming, there are places we need to improve on, this is the right time which we need to do that. We need to act on the gaps that we have, the non-compliance we have. We need to plan to remediate those non-compliance. So all suggested service improvements should be evaluated, documented, prioritized, and authorized rather. Monitoring these activities also should be planned. So improvement, or one thing I would like to add is that improvement is necessary in order to improve the performance of the organization and increase satisfaction. It needs to be a permanent objective of the organization. Improvement, continual improvement is important, whether it's in COVID, whether it's in IT, whether it's in ISO 20000, all the ISOs. Continual improvement is very important. And now, applying the principle leads to a company culture and organization-wide approach to continual improvement. This here is very important because continual improvement might not just be the parts we are not, the non-conformities we are having, the opportunity for improvement we are having. No, it goes beyond that. It's all continual improvement, also including trying to think of what are we doing now, what do we as an organization need to improve on. It might mean thinking outside the box, like, okay, organization as an organization, do we need to start thinking about AIs? Do we need to start thinking about machine learning? Do we need to start thinking about using ChatGPT or any of these modern, doing robotics and so on and so forth? So that is part of continual improvement. So continual improvement should be a company culture. So it's not also limited to ISO 20000 alone. It should be a company culture of how do we improve the processes we have currently. And activities to be carried out is information should be recorded and analyzed as baseline and a benchmark against the provider's capability in managing service and service management process, consulting with involved parties. We need to go outside that department, go to that department and consult with them to know what they want to improve on, identify plans and implement improvements, then ensure that all approved actions are delivered and they achieve their intended objective. When we've gathered all this information, all the things we need to improve on, this last part
is where we need to work in ensure that all approved actions are delivered and they achieve their intended outcome. So that is that from ISO 20,000 information for service management systems. I think I'll be handing over to Edith now. If there's any questions, they can come up.
All right, thank you so very much for that very insightful and educative session on IT service management system. And please, if you have your questions, kindly chat in the group or in the chat room. And I think somebody was putting up his hand or her hand earlier, but I can't see that hand up anymore. If you have your questions, please chat and let us attend to your questions quickly. Okay. All right. Everybody is being appreciative of you. So thank you very much, Dahusi, for this very educative session. We don't have much questions or any question at all. Thank you so very much, and thanks for sharing your time with us and taking us through this class. All right, we have come to the end of the second class or second session for today. We'll be going on break now. And we took 10 minutes into the break time, and we'll be coming back by 1:10. That is 10 minutes past 1. We'll be back for the last class or last session for today on which is on business analysis. Okay, so please, Mercy, you can put up in the chat room the link to the assessments for today, both for etiquette and elocution. Okay, so sorry, etiquette and decorum. Mercy, please share that, and then the link for the ISO class as well. All right, and when we come back, we will continue with the business analysis as well as the attendance link form. Mercy, please share that in the group chat as well. All right, thank you very much, Dahusi, for your time. We really appreciate, and we'll see everybody when we come back by 10 minutes past 1 for the third session for today. We'll see you then.